All right, welcome back. Episode 11 of the Four Inside Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Obi. Joining me again is my big bro, Bernard. How you doing, bro?
Doing good, doing good.
Appreciate you lending your time again. So, especially with quarantine ending and sports resuming, the NBA is going back into the bubble. The NFL has to adjust to new standards. One thing to talk about is the mental approach to sports, which is something that's key, and I don't think it's talked about enough. We were both guys who had different career paths and had to do a lot of adapting. So we're going to get right into it. We start with the mental approach to training your body, right? So talk about what it was like and what went into your mentality when you were working out football.
Well, for me, the training aspect was the best part for in sports for me. Because that's the whole reason why I even wanted to get into sports so I could work out and develop my body. So for me, I just wanted to get bigger and stronger every time I got into the gym, or into the training room, right? So then whenever I got in to like really, really competitive, so varsity and then obviously at UTEP, it was just about making sure I was physically ready to be able to play the whole season, and not have my play production go down. In the end, the reason why you have to train and work as hard as you have to work when it comes to the weight room is it's all for injury prevention, because you're clashing and banging bodies with other humans, 60 minutes a game over 10, 12 games a year. You got to be able to withstand that, and that's why if you look at how at least the way football players train, it's trained themselves to be able to withstand as much as they can the rigors of a full football season. That's why it's a year-round process for all athletes, but especially for football players and basketball players. Because you're putting a lot of stress, unnatural stress on the body. So that's always been my mind. That was always my mindset, just trying to train so I can be bigger, stronger, and faster, so that way I can perform better on the field.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a little different because I started playing the game a little bit younger. I mean, I was 12, so there wasn't lifting weights at the time. You just kind of played. And we had junior high. And so when I got to seventh grade, I mean, I didn't really know what lifting weights was. I just knew the coach would tell me, hey, this is how you get better at the game, which is all I cared about, was just improving and being able to prove to myself and to my teammates that I was a good football player. I mean, and so it was like, okay, the way you get good is to lift weights. And so I just, kind of took that approach of this is all a means to an end to help me get better. As you get older, though, you start to understand, like you're mentioning, it's all injury prevention, which is part of the reason why I never really got hurt. I mean, part of it also is that I didn't start so young. So I think that's a big factor that people don't talk about is like for the kids who start playing football at 5 and 6, and then basically they'll come to high school, you've already played almost 10 years. But I think me starting late and me taking the weight room seriously, because I mean I think a lot of people don't really understand, how lifting weights benefits them. They just kind of see it as, oh, it's just something I have to do. It's like a sport. I think if people really wrap their mind around, listen, this is all going to help me be a better athlete, be healthier, and like I said, stave off injury. That's the big picture. That's the big takeaway. So then also, we were both guys who you played, especially. You started out playing on the outside, you played the end, and then moved to the interior. Did your training have to shift with you having now to play on the interior? You're playing against bigger guys.
No, I stayed the same. I stayed the exact same because you're still doing the same thing. Whenever I played three technique in my senior year of high school, I was as strong as any lineman that I would play throughout the whole year, and then I'm as fast as like most of our receivers and running backs. So for me, I really didn't need to put on size like that. They would say, "Oh, if you put on weight, it'd be better," but I didn't really need to. And I was still playing three technique, and I was still playing really, really well. So in the end, like, it doesn't really matter. For me, it didn't matter playing outside or inside. It just was the same training, same mindset, same everything, you know. But then once I got to college, for me, it was all about getting as strong and a little bit bigger as possible, because then now you're playing guys who are a lot more physically developed, who are a lot more physically mature than what you're playing at the high school level. So, but for me, my thing was always just to make sure I maintain speed above all this. So that's what made me the player I was.
Yeah, again, a little bit different for me because so you were there kind of towards the end. I played basically. I would play outside linebacker. Like I know that's what they had me playing when I played youth football, and when I was in junior high, they like had me play basically like a Robert Mathis type of role, where it was like your edge rusher, outside linebacker, but you could put your hand down and you'd be the edge rusher. And I was I was a big kid for being a big kid, but then at the same time, I didn't weigh that much, especially when I got to high school. And then they switched over. I went from playing the edge, and then they got me playing the three technique in a 4-3. And for people who don't know, 4-3 is basically a three technique, like I'm always saying. You're not head on against the no against the center, but you're still on the interior. And so playing on the interior, it worked because you're still mainly responsible for one gap. And then we changed our scheme again, and then we played a 3-4, and they put me in nose. And playing a 3-4 nose, generally, if you get those types of guys, they're big, you know, even at the high school level, you have relatively big guys. They're around 280, 270, maybe that's a lighter guy. I was at the time 242 when they changed the scheme over and moved me over the nose. And my coach was telling me, he needs you at 255, 260, you know, and so I had to kind of look at it like, okay, I got to gain weight now. And so just that approach was a little bit different because, I mean, I really was, I got into football in large part to lose weight because I was overweight at the time and run up. And so then it was like, now I got to change my mentality, change my training to be able to put on weight as far as muscles concerned, at least, which is what you should be doing anyway. But then it's a matter of packing on those extra pounds to be able to take on double teams, because now when you're playing nose, people don't know is you're generally getting double teamed. People are blocking you. Two large people are blocking you, and so just that whole regimen had to change. I had to look and do more research as far as how to gain weight in a healthy manner, and so just that was a little bit different. But I mean, again, the training, the discipline is still the same. You still have to do what you have to put in the work. So, but also just the process of getting in shape and conditioning. So now running. What was your mindset as far as running, or how did you run? What was the typical conditioning workout like?
I only did conditioning because we had to do conditioning. If it was up to me, I would never do conditioning because I hate running. At least doing like this, like running and conditioning type running. I like doing like sprint work and speed work. I like doing that a lot because for me, my body's more built for that, you know, because everyone's built differently for different athletic performance things, I guess you could say, right? I'm mostly built because so there's a little kind of muscle anatomy lesson, whatever you want to call it, real quick. So we have two different muscle fiber types. There's type 1 and then type 2. Type 1, and I might get this wrong. So anyone out there, if I'm wrong, correct me. But I believe type 1 muscle fiber types are more your endurance muscle fibers, and then type 2 are more like your explosive muscle fiber types, right? So when you look at different athletes, right? So marathon runners, to a lesser degree, NBA athletes, they have more muscle 1 fiber types, so they have more endurance. They're more built for endurance. That's why they can, run up and down the court for, what seems nonstop, right? Then you look at football players, baseball players, sprinters. You see they're more muscularly developed. They're more built up of the type 2 muscle fiber types, which is more for explosiveness, strength, things like that, right? So that's how I'm built. I'm actually built with more of the type 2 muscle fiber type. So whenever I do conditioning, I gas out a lot quicker because I just have naturally less endurance muscle than I do, um, type 2 muscle fiber types, right?
Yeah.
But then if we go into the weight room and we do a heavy lifting workout where we're lifting, I crushing and thriving that situation. Whereas some of those lighter guys, and mostly it's usually there's this thing with basketball players, they hate lifting weights.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's because they're not built to lift weights like that. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I just did conditioning because we had to, and I knew that, okay, well, as much as I hated it, I knew I needed to do it in order for me to be able to be good for the season and be able to play the whole season out.
What was your diet like? I mean, especially when you got to college, because I'm assuming you had better access to food. So talk about what the food aspect was like and how that factored in.
Wasn't very good. I mean, diet wasn't really, I didn't really know much about how to eat or what to eat, or as an athlete, just kind of eat what we get fed at Luby's. And then I remember, like, every time we go to winter conditioning, I always we do like what we call stations, which is just like different conditioning drills and stuff like that. And I always die out by the end or towards the end of it. And then my coaches, because we had, so our training table in college was just Luby's, right? Different schools, like big schools, have like a cafeteria. Some of them have a student athlete cafeteria where it's catered to just student athletes. But UTEP didn't have all that. So our training table was going to Luby's once a day, 6 times a week. So one time our coaches get there and they saw like what I was eating, it was like fried chicken and stuff like that. Then they're like, "You see, that's why you die out during conditioning. If you're eating that, you need to stop eating all that." So I was like, okay, whatever. And but yeah, so that made a difference, because that's when I switched from fried chicken to baked chicken. Then I saw the difference, but still I was just like, okay, I didn't know. Now, years later, knowing what I know now about diet and nutrition, if I had known that, I think my career would have been a lot better. Maybe, but I know I definitely would have performed a lot better. And now there's all types of different things coming out. There's studies that are being shown that the best diet for an athlete is the vegan diet. There's there's the Mediterranean diet, which is basically mostly all whole foods, no processed foods. Yeah. So there's all different types of things. I'm not really one to kind of tell people what they should eat. I think people should just stay away from fast food as much as they can, stay away from processed food as much as they can. And that's really it. Just stick to mostly eating whole foods, and then just watch meat consumption. I'm not saying cut it out altogether, but I think in this country we eat so much meat, and a lot of the meat that we eat isn't really like the highest quality. It's lower quality compared to other places, other countries. Because you go to Africa, for example, right, and they don't use all the GMOs, and they don't use all that. No, they don't treat the meat the way we treat. They just kill the animal and then it's right to your plate, right? Yeah. And different parts of the world, and every other part of the world, that's how it is. But in this country, it's everything's farmed, and sometimes there's hormones. So it's just, people just need to just kind of watch out what they eat, and and then especially if you're going to be an athlete, you definitely need to watch it. Make sure you're eating mostly greens, fruits, and different types of vegetables and complex carbohydrates, which is going to give you what you need to be able to perform at the highest level possible, and then also get adequate proteins. Again, it doesn't have to be all from animal products. It can be from other sources such as peanut butter, beans, things like that.
Yeah, what made our team in high school very interesting and kind of, I knew we were built differently mentally, was that I had teammates who would do like body experiments as far as nutrition was concerned. So a guy I played with, his name's Cam Townsend, right? Every season, what he would do is he would cut out a specific thing. So like, prime example, when we were juniors, he cut out sugar. So like no candy, no dessert, no nothing the whole season. And he would do this experiment with his body to see, okay, how do I feel? And he'd come back at the end of the season, he'd be like, well, this is what I've learned is that first off, I feel better, I feel cleaner, I don't die out because now my body isn't dehydrated, that type of thing. And so then I looked into that, And then also, I'm trying to gain muscle at the time, so I had to do a little bit more research as far as okay, how do you gain healthy weight? And it's stuff like peanut butter, like you said, whole foods. You stay away from processed food because in the beginning, what you kind of are told also is that as a football player, especially, you can kind of get away with eating what you want from the standpoint you'll burn it all off. Especially if you're a guy who's trying to uh, gain weight, you can get away with dirty bulking. That's what the term is now, body build. And so I kind of took on that mentality, but then I was like, nah, you need to, if I can, stay away from bad stuff as best I could. And luckily, our mom is big on, health and, not putting too much bad stuff in life. So that helped a little bit. And then also just being able to really kind of hunker down and be disciplined. So like for me, not only did I cut out like sweets during the season, because I mean I'm a guy who candy. I mean I don't drink soda. No, I don't drink juice and hardly if at all. Because I understood that all those things like people really need to look at nutrition facts on a cardboard and like on a thing that they're buying, and then you'll see, okay, this juice one cup has like 26 grams of sugar. Well, think about what that sugar does to you as an activist, such as poison, soda's poison. So yeah, that going on, and then I think also like one thing we tried also when we were seniors, I even hopped in on this experiment. It was like I wouldn't eat fast food during the season, and neither would he. Like Cam, another guy we played with, Jamil, because these are all guys who are about to play in college, and so they're already training the body as such. I was that experiment, and we felt great. I mean, we were always stretching, we're always doing yoga instead of practice, and so just being able to train the body and understand it, and it's the little things. Like that's why when we would play certain teams, and it's like we were cramping up, it's because we were like we were the type of dudes to tell you like you guys don't stretch, please. You guys don't drink your water, right? You guys don't hydrate. Y'all don't do nothing, and y'all all they're going to McDonald's, right? So that type of thing, and like sure enough, like some of the teammates were like, yeah, I'm like, yep, it's telling. And so just in that also, and running, like you said, I gassed out a lot, but I was very explosive, so I was able to get strong quickly, and that was my main advantage. I understood why myself was like, okay, I know I might not be the fastest guy, might not be even the most durable guy, but I know one thing I do excel at is being able to be in the weight room. So I mean, I stayed in the weight room as long as I could. Like it'd be times where I almost every day I'm getting kicked out because they'd be like, "Dude, you gotta go home," stuff like that. And then I just make sure to do like track workouts. Like I'd run like sprints and interval sprints just to make sure that I didn't fall behind. And also, 'cause, I mean, over the course of like summer camp and running gas at the end of the season, you get yourself into shape, your body healthy, keep your body hydrated. It'll leave any bad stuff that you may have had in there. So I mean, that's another thing too. I had to understand that if I wanted to, keep my body in as best shape as I could, I have to just take care of it. It's like a car, like you say. And so, again, the nutrition aspect of sports. If I had known what I knew now, like you said, back when I first started playing, I mean, I'm don't know, but again, this is why we hop on the platform to educate the next generation of people. So, in game, training your mind for in game mentality. First off, did you have any type of like pre-game rituals? What was your mental preparation like before a game?
For me, I mean, my mental preparation was just like the night before the game, and this will apply more to college more than like high school. Because high school, again, I was still kind of raw, so I didn't really know much of anything. More in college, I tried to eat the same thing at the hotel, like pregame, either in the morning at breakfast, and then pregame meal. I always try to eat the same foods, and then just kind of just visualizing what the game atmosphere is going to be like. So I have to just prepare my mind for it, and then you always get nervous, like before you play the first snap, and after the first snap, you just decompress it, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was like rituals, and then always just try to think positively about like how I would perform and how the team would perform too. So I think those were my like pregame rituals, and that was kind of like my that was my normal routine, and just kind of trying to visualize good things happening, so that way you can translate onto the field. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't really. I'm not like these guys where it's like I can only wear like a certain thing, or I have to wear the exact same. No, I wasn't like that crazy. To some guys, there are that crazy, and it is what it is. But yeah, for me, I just had like other different rituals, and then I always went down to the field pre-game just to throw the football around with my boy AC, and we would do that. And then even when we were coaching at UTEP, we would still do the same thing too. So that was like one of my rituals as well. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I don't have like anything like crazy that like some guys have. Like some guys, they do all types of weird stuff, which I couldn't get into it because it's like so far off to me. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. For me, the mental side of the game, especially once I got to my last year playing, that was really what, in my opinion, set me apart because, especially with watching film. I mean, I've talked about this before. Watching film, people talk about slowing the game down with your mind, right? That was the way I did it. So, we had Huddle at the time. Huddle was, the video clip sharing platform that they give to high school athletes. And they still use it. And so what I do, I'd get the other team's game tape, that our coaches would send us, or if a team was close enough, we go watch them the week before, and I just watch, especially their O-line. I just watch how their O-line would play. I would get the tendencies of like their centers, their guards, who chipped, who didn't chip, who doubled a lot. Was this a guy who slung a lot? Was this a guy who had good feet? Was this a guy who didn't move his feet? Does he stand straight up? Those types of things. And so I just would watch for all those little minute details because I knew I wasn't the fastest guy. I knew I had strong forearms, which strong forearms you taught me was strong forearms are good for blocking, for setting blocks, for getting guys off you, for keeping guys' hands off you, especially when you're swiping or when you're ripping. And so I knew what my advantages were, so I had to look at, okay, what can I get on this other guy? And also, it was just, I mean, if you would have knew me at the time, I was I was always in the library watching football, watching my position, watching guys who played my position, guys who either were my grade, guys in college, guys in the NFL, and I was a football junkie, and I had to be. I mean, if I wanted to be good, I wanted to make all district teams, I had to be. And I mean, that was the only thing as far as mentally beforehand, like as far as just training the brain and slowing the game down. And then, I mean, the day of a game, day before, I mean, it would just kind of be, I'd watch clips over it again because the day of the game, there's nothing else you can do. I mean, you can't make yourself any better as an athlete. So my whole thing is just kind of getting hyped up before a game and then calming it down and just progressing. So like, after school, I'd, go get my stuff, I'd get my equipment ready. That'd be my little like pre-game ritual. That way I don't have to worry about it. We go through our meeting. I go meditate for about 10 or 15 minutes, just kind of with all the stuff that might have happened throughout the week or throughout the day. I just keep it there for that time being. And then I lock in, we go over our game plan one more time. And then I go into the locker room, I get into my equipment. We take our bus ride down to the game because we didn't have a home stadium like Pearland had. We had to drive up to Hall Stadium in about 10 minutes. So I'm just I kind of let my mind kind of just roam freely. We had trees, and so I just look at the trees, look at nature, and kind of just focus on, okay, what am I looking for with this guy? Okay, what do we have to do today? All right. I wasn't a big stat guy, I couldn't be. So it's just like, okay, make sure you don't, make sure you don't stand up, make sure you do what you're told to do. And I'm telling myself all these things. And then as far as when we get there to the stadium, after we settle in, we would walk the field, just like how you would go down to the field. And my whole thing was I'd walk 100 yards and I just look into the stands and I would just imagine that the stands are full of people. Then I block it out. By the time we finished walking the field, I literally couldn't even hear what fans were saying. I couldn't hear fans cheering. I literally blocked out all noise where I could just walk in onto the field. And so it was just this, I guess Kobe had like what they call mama mentality. I'm not gonna say I had that, but it was just kind of everything. My attention was solely on the field of play, and right before the game, I lead the team in prayer, we pray, and then we go out onto the field. And after that, it was just, you know, by that time I prepared my mind so much that, I'm ready to go. There's nothing really that can deter me, mentally. So in game mentality, right? What are the things that you would look for as far as being at the end? Are there any tendencies you look at, your opponent for? Like, I know for me, especially if I played on the outside, I look for a guy who stood straight up, a guy who was back on his heels instead of on his toes, a guy who wouldn't move his feet. The first drive of every game, for the most part, so I'd look for, okay, what is this guy's blocking tendency? I kind of already knew from film, but then I just get, and was I stronger than this guy? What were the things you would look for in game?
In the game,
Yeah,
yeah. So I would see like how they set. I mean, and for me, like I didn't really look for anything, especially um, when I got to college. I wasn't looking for anything in game because that should already been done pre game in terms of preparation during the week. I'm doing film study, so I mean, in film, we just look at like how they set, in terms of pass blocking. Do they overset guys who they know are fast? Do they set they set strong for guys that think, this kind of seeing how they kick, what their how strong they are in terms of like their run blocking, how good their feet are. I mean, it's not as complex as some guys would make it be. Which for me, that's my big thing about football, and really sports in general, but for football in particular, is you just need to simplify it. Especially if you're going to play defense, you need to simplify it as much as you can because trying to make it super complex, trying to make it super complicated just slows you down because then now you're thinking too much instead of reacting. And football, especially playing defense, you need to be reactionary. Playing defense is not about like, okay, what's the best way I can outmaneuver this guy? No, just react to what he's doing. So whatever he shows you, you should be able to. You should already have a plan in your head. Like, okay, if he oversets me, I'm gonna dip back under. If he sets shallow on me, then I'm just gonna run around him. If he sets me light, where he's just going back, I'm just gonna boom. So you need to have that mind. You need to have that game plan in your head too, and then also you have to figure out what you're good at too. So for me, I was a speed guy, but also had power. So and what I should have did more of whenever I was playing was instead of trying to run around guys, I should have just bulled through guys and use speed to power. Use speed to power. That's what my game should have been. So that's the thing too. So for me, in game we're just trying to see like, okay, what are they doing? Like, are they trying to double me, or are they doubling the other end, or are they doubling the tackles and leaving us 1-on-1? Are they as strong as, or are they as good as they looked in film, or are they look better in on the field than they? So that's to see like how we can make the in-game adjustments.
yeah,
That's really like what the process was. It was just really trying to make the on-the-fly adjustments, from series to series, and then obviously going into halftime, you let them know like, hey, like this is what they're doing. Like they're not doing what they're doing on film with us. It's completely different. Or yes, they're doing exactly what we saw on film. So that's really what it boils down to. But again, for me, my whole thing was just for me personally, and then when guys ask me like, well, how do I get this? I just try to make it as simple as possible because I feel like whenever you make it more complicated than it needs to be, guys start to overthink and then they think twice about playing and then they're not able to react as quickly as they should.
I agree. I mean, I know for us as a defense, our coach, like you said, he made our scheme relatively simple. I mean, it was a 3-4, so that's just the alignment. And then, he had basically his simple little stunt. And then, because we were guys, a lot of us my senior year, we had played varsity 3 years in a row, and a lot of us started since we were sophomores. We kind of already knew the scheme to where we could basically coach and police ourselves. Like, it got to a point where we would ask him if we could run these stunts if we saw certain actions. So I mean, that's how simple it was, and that's how much he kind of gave us the autonomy to kind of think the game for ourselves. And we all had high football IQs, and we all were good at communicating. And the same thing, like you said, like especially me as a D lineman when I was playing those, mean, that wasn't the main move I could have done was bull rushing. I mean, yeah, I could have tried speed rushing, but then you get caught off guard, and then that's how you give up. You give up a lot of running lanes, especially if you're trying to run around guys. You have to really make sure that you anchor the middle and the interior, because if you're not, then you either get driven into the linebacker, or if the center decides to leave, then he goes off the linebacker, and then there's a big old hole. So, I mean, as far as in game as a nose, it was really just making sure that I maintained gap responsibility. I didn't get overtaken. I didn't get reached. I mean, those are the little things that you get top. But I mean, the game, like you said, is simple if you make it simple. Especially because I spent so much time preparing for the game mentally beforehand. I knew what I would look for. I knew what generally other guys were going to do. It was just a matter of, like you said, are they going to do the same thing? Are they going to stick to their game plan, or are they going to try another course of action? Especially because with the three guys that I played with, well, four, because we got a lot of us interchanged. Teams had a very tough time blocking us one on one, which means that they had to double our D lineman, which left our linebackers free, which is great for me because it's like, okay, I know if two of y'all have to block me, that means they're gonna have to leave one of us by ourselves. And I had all the confidence in my guys that one of us was gonna make the play. And if you had blocked all of us, even if you use a tight end and you double team all of us, so now you expended six people to block two. And those are the little things that you kind of think about. Like, I know young guys that talk to me about playing the game now. It's like, man, I'm gonna make it that many tackles. I'm like, well, you're making plays even if you don't make the tackle. Like, if you're as a nose or as a D lineman, if you're getting double teamed and people have to those two people on you, and the middle linebacker makes the play in the hole, and they get no gain or they get a loss, you assisted on that play. Now, yeah, assisted tackles don't really assist in that manner. Don't go up on protection. You're still gonna still see that on film. So when guys ask me, football questions like, "Oh, how do I do this? How do I do that?" I'm like, "Look, the game is simple. First off, be prepared. That's the main thing, and then just understand what you're good at. Look at what they're doing, and then just react. And make sure that you maintain your responsibilities. Main thing." So the art of trash talking. I know I wasn't too big a trash talker. Who were some guys who you knew who were trash talkers, and where you won?
I played against. I mean, I remember guys here and there that would talk trash, but I mean, I never paid attention to it because, I'm not big on trash talking. I mean, some guys can do it. Some guys just think they can do it, but they can't because they can't back it up. So it's like, don't talk trash if you can't back it up. I remember one of my teammates, my boy Demrod, he always would talk trash, like especially during practice.
Oh, really?
When we're like in spring ball or fall training camp, you just talk trash nonstop. But even in the games, though, especially if we're like if we're like beating the team and they're like starting to do cheap shit and do like after the play stuff, you know what I'm saying? Then he really would like start trash talking. So that was the one dude I can remember that would just talk trash. No one that I played with really talked trash. Everyone, for the most part, was just about playing and just, what I'm saying, playing on the field and just focusing on like beating the opponent.
Yeah. It was different for me because I was a guy who was diplomatic, but it had to kind of get ingrained into me because I played with this guy named Arian, who was a left tackle. Older than I was, bigger than I was, very loud too with his trash talking. So it was kind of like you have to learn that you can decide to ignore it, but nah, you gotta. If you ignore it, then they'll just keep doing this. You gotta kind of stand up for yourself. So I mean, I would trash talk with purpose, kind of, especially if it was in game. I mean, with Arian, he was one of those guys to just kind of,
I think I'm Shannon Sharp.
Huh?
I think I'm Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp, he was a little bit more.
He always would talk. He always talk about how he was the biggest trash talker in the NFL at the time. You know what I'm saying? And I can even see like old videos of him talking trash in my head now.
Hey, Shannon Sharp was he funny with it too. Like you wouldn't even. For me, I feel like I couldn't even take it serious. I'd be like, bro, just shut up. Like, seriously. No, but I mean, when I see offensive guys who talk trash, I used to love that because it's like, okay,
If I had a quarterback who talked a lot, if I knew a quarterback who would surf a lot, I'm like, bro, I seen you throw through big classes, like that. I do little stuff like that. Um, or like we would find out guys like they tell us this in a scouting report, especially if I was like getting heavily recruited, because that was one thing that kind of gave our defense, especially a little bit of the edge. We had a couple of guys who, a lot of us played in college, but a lot of us weren't highly recruited. And so we would kind of use that to fuel us because it was like, okay, such and such is about to be a blue chipper, or this guy's about to, go to this college or this or that college, right? So we would be like, hey, this guy has this on a scouting report, especially if it was like a running back or a quarterback.
but I mean, we always, luckily, our coaches were good on, making sure that we didn't get stuff out of hand, especially if we play like in rivalry games. Making sure that we kept our mindset on the goal, which is to win the game. So I mean, trash talking, is part of the game. I wasn't big on it unless somebody started it. I knew a couple of trash talkers, but I mean, again, our mentality was more so about beating you and just like taking your will away, that type of thing. And then if the guy would kind of engage with it, we would just kind of shut it down. I just like, we just stats against them, we used the scoreboard against them, and it was kind of that, we just shut it down. But, just always hearing those stories is kind of interesting too. And it's guys good and can back it up. And it's a nightmare for some people. But now taking a mental approach, after football, the both of us got into lifting weights. You got into bodybuilding. Talk about how your mentality was and how football helps your mentality with lifting weights and especially training, getting into that realm.
Well, I mean, again, like I said before, my reason of even wanting to play football was so I could get into a weight room and work out. So for me, when I got in kind of, I mean, I wouldn't even call it bodybuilding. I would call it like, I call what I did and what I do is just working out. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not trying to live like the bodybuilding lifestyle. I wasn't trying to live the bodybuilding lifestyle. I mean, I used bodybuilding methods and techniques and tactics to like challenge my body to certain different type of ways. But I wouldn't say bodybuilding influences like my lifestyle now, especially now because I'm older and for me, I'm realizing that what I like my body my body's best was whenever I was more focused on being an athlete. So trying to build my body for performance, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I'm like, my mindset is trying to shift back towards now too, is just getting back into more performance based work, training, you know what I'm saying? So I don't care about looking like I can be on the Olympia stage or anything like that. Cause to me, if it doesn't translate into like actual like performance, then like, what's the point? But I think there's a place for it, especially in football, because in bodybuilding, you have to, eat like clean and, you train religiously. And it's a really, really strict regimen that you get on, especially if you're getting ready to get on stage. And that your life has to revolve around getting ready to hit the stage. So I think that's for me, what I guess kind of like the discipline that you learn in football is what I kind of learned after football in my training is just, that regimen of, staying disciplined, of making it like the habit of always going to the gym and just really hitting it hard. But, I think but I think me wanting to get into a weight room kind of influenced my football career more than football influenced like me like training and bodybuilding or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I looked at football. I mean, I looked at weightlifting as just the means to get better at football. And so when football was done, I still had a lot of competitor left in me just because of the time at which I stopped. And so I did mixed martial arts for a little bit, and that was completely different from the standpoint. Like it was just awkward. Like you're not using brute force, you're not using explosiveness, at least not as far as lifting weight off the ground. It was a lot about body flexibility, body technique, and that's why like you would roll with guys who were way smaller than you a lot of times, or like I would see guys who were huge and would look like this guy should manhandle another dude who was smaller than him, and the small dude would win because his technique was better. So I think when I did mixed martial arts for the time, first off, it's like especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's built on discipline, built on mentality, built on respect and respecting life and respecting the art. And it was really big on body control, flexibility. So for me, it was good because it kind of helped my body be loose. It helped my body be nimble. It helped me also uh, understand body control because I mean, playing football is really built on explosiveness. A lot of football players don't have the best time. And so with BJJ, you had to learn technique. You had to learn how to do things the right way. Otherwise, you lose a lot of times, or you get hurt, you get caught, and smaller guys end up beating you, right? So after Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was done, I did that for about 6 months. Um, I got into powerlifting because I still had like a competitiveness that needed to come out of me. And I was like, powerlifting is the most like football that I understand, like that was just present at the time. There's like tangible numbers you can attain, with yards and things like that. And I still wanted to get stronger at the time. I was 18 and still had something to prove mentally just to myself. And so that's when I started working out with you, working out with Jonathan. Our guy Jonathan's a powerlifter, Jeffrey. And I mean, I just get different powerlifting workouts and I just start picking people's brains and things of that nature. I competed once and that was cool. That was fun. Powerlifting meets are really fun, really competitive, and a lot of adrenaline. And then after I competed that one time and I placed first, I got gold. It was just kind of like, okay, like powerlifting is cool and all. It's great getting stronger, but I wanted to take on another challenge, which was to train my body to be aesthetic, more aesthetically pleasing, more defined, more cut, more functional, like you're talking about. And so then that's when I got more into just like, I call it power building. Like I'd implement a little bit of bodybuilding, I implement some powerlifting, but mainly it's just about, looking aesthetics. Because like I've always been a big guy. I've always had an endomorphic body where, it was like I gained weight really easily. So it's harder to cut up and move muscle. And so I took on that challenge. And, also just having stuff going on at the time, I just lived in the gym all day. And, I would work out like 2, 3 hours a day just because I was in school. I really didn't have much else to do. It kept me out of trouble. I was doing stuff that was bad for me. So just being able to be in the gym, try different things, try different workouts, try different people's workouts, like different bodybuilders, different powerlifters. It was just all about really just trying to maximize, uh, you know, the limits that I could reach with just my body and just see what I could do. Um, so then uh, another thing I want to talk about is I know you talked about your confidence came from just you believing that nobody could be better than you, whether it was football, whether it was bodybuilding, or like exercising in general, just getting your body in shape. Well, talk about where your competitiveness came from and where your self confidence came from. I mean, not everybody just has it. It has to come from somewhere. It has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, so I think for me, my competitiveness came from just never accepting that people who were in front of me
Mm.
were that much I always would question, are they that much better than me? Like, can I not be better than them? Like there's no way, so I think that's what made me as competitive as I am. And then also I just hate losing. Like I just naturally don't like to lose. I don't like to be second best and once I understood like the concept of best and then not the best, I kind of always been like, okay, well I can't not be the best. Like I just never accepted that. So I think that's where the competitiveness comes in for me too. So even like when it comes to from playing video games, I hate losing. To anybody, I hate. So I just naturally don't like to lose. I don't like to not be the best. So I think that's really where it comes from, is just my own natural instinct of not wanting to be second to anybody or anybody being able to say I'm better at you in this. Even though I know there's some people who are better at me in certain things because they're more apt to those type of things. For me, if it's something that I want to pursue, then I'm going to make sure I'm the best at it, So I think that's, for me, is where the competitiveness comes from. It's just, I always have to be the best whatever thing it is that I want to pursue,
I mean, yeah, for me, it was about really beating the person in the mirror because, I was a person who was bullied because I was overweight. I mean, it's part of life. It ain't, it's not that big of a deal, but I just knew at the time, like, well, you can't fight people, right? Because you're not going to be able to come home to your parents and be like, oh, I kicked this person's butt because they said something, you'd be in the wrong and you get suspended from school. So it was that type of thing. But that influence was still there and I needed some way to let it out. And so my competitiveness came partly from being able to shut up people who would talk about me because it mainly be dudes. And then especially once we got to 7th grade and started playing football, like all those people who used to mess with me all play ball. And so it was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna get this guy, I'm gonna get this guy, I'm gonna get this guy. And it slowly started from that. And then it was like, I had like, silencing doubters and people who were like, oh, you're not that good. You're not that good. Like, so, okay, all right, I'm going to show you. And so, I mean, I think that's largely where a lot of people's competitiveness come from, especially guys from like poor backgrounds who are doubted because of their circumstances. And I think, just always wanting to maximize my potential, like as best as I could. I always knew that I had a good work ethic because of the way our dad raised us. It was just like, you have to want to be the best that you can be. You have to want to strive to reach the highest level. And it was always that type of discipline, and always that type of effort that I took, it was like that in school. And I took that into football, mixed martial arts, powerlifting. And it was like, I'm trying to be the person in the mirror first off because, you're your own worst enemy. I believe like the person who we wake up in the morning and who we look at when we brush our teeth and, the people who like, it's our own mental kind of, we have to train it to where, you can do anything you set out to do. And so then let me show it to myself more than anything. And that was a mental adjustment rather than saying I'm doing it to shut these people up. I'm doing it for myself. And, it was really, really just, that's why like, especially when it came to powerlifting, people would be like, why do you, like, you can never give yourself compliments. You can never feel good about yourself. I'm like, it's not about that. It's just, I'm never satisfied. Like I'm always trying to get to the next thing and the next goal, the next milestone. So it's like that in football from the standpoint. If I won all district, okay, I was trying to go all state. If I won all state, all American, all nation now, I didn't play the game that long and I didn't perform enough to get there, but it was still a matter of keeping the ceiling as high as you could and wherever you fell is where you fell. As long as you didn't see yourself, you didn't see the game, that was always important to me as far as being a competitor. Just always trying to do what I could to maximize my potential. And, it is what it is. You make mistakes and you live with them and you learn from them. But, the main thing is as long as people do their best and give their all, I think that's the main takeaway. And that's what people always strive to do when you're competing, Last thing, youth sports. So especially us living here in Texas, we have youth football. I played it. You witnessed it. What is your take on just the whole climate of youth sports, youth athletics? AAU and basketball, youth football here in Texas. What is your take on that?
I being as, I guess, as deep and as involved in football as I was, I think that youth sports in general are a good thing. I think that youth should get into playing sports as early as they can. The only sport I question how young is too young is football, because again, now you're starting your mortality clock in football. Mm-hmm. So you having like 5-6 year olds playing football, to me doesn't really make sense at all. And then because for me, your body's not even developed at all. You know what I'm saying? So you're just going out there, just running around, knocking to each other for what? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So for me, I think the earliest that you should play football as junior high. So that's like 7th, 8th grade when you're 12, 13. That's when you should first start. Other than that, there's no point, because by the time you get to a point where playing actually matters, which is, junior high and then obviously high school, and then if you go to college, that's when they're going to teach you how to play the game again. They start you from day one. So to me, youth football is really just, that doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not really for it. I think, youth basketball and, soccer and baseball, those are good sports to get started in, and track. Those are all good sports to get started in because, for one, they're not as physically taxing on the body. And two, those are skills that you have to develop over time. You know what I'm saying? And so you can start. So when you first start dribbling basketball, if you dribble basketball for 10 years, from 5 to you're 15, you have a good chance of being really, really good. Whereas football, again, by the time you get to high school, to junior high, and then high school, they teach you how to play football all over again. So what you thought you knew, they say, no, that's just, whatever. You rec ball, and again, your body. And that's for me what is more important than anything is just how physically you can hold up. Mm-hmm. So I think that, and then this also seeing how so involved some parents get just makes it to me almost like it's such a waste of time. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't play youth sports. I didn't play in junior high. I started playing football in high school, and I went to a Division I school and had an okay career there. And if I was a little bit more genetically gifted, who knows? I could probably made it to NFL. And that's starting playing football in high school. So the point is, the youth sports circuit. Outside of that, the only sport I would get rid of is football. Every other sport, to me, I think it's good because it gets kids, on a team, being active, which I think is important, and then to start learning those things about winning and losing. Because again, I think that should be something that drives people. I don't think everyone is the best at everything, and everyone should be rewarded just for participating and trying their best. Because in the end, your best is not enough. And then when it comes to if your best isn't enough, then it is what it is. And even when it comes, because when you get to the real world and you start working, you can say, well, I tried my best. Sir, or your boss will be like, well, your best wasn't enough. Either perform better or we'll have to let you go. So for me, the whole participation trophy thing, it just makes society's mindset weaker. Every other country in the world, they don't believe in that. It's either you're the best or you're not. And if you're not the best, you're striving to become the best until you are the best. So.
Yeah, I agree. I played youth sports, since I was 5. I 100% agree. Getting a trophy was cool, but then, like you said, it kind of programs you that, just trying and failing really is all right. And I get it that, you don't want to really diminish a young kid, especially a kid who's, under 10. You don't want to diminish their confidence by saying, oh, you don't get a prize for winning. But at the same time, like you said, that's not how real life is. So you kind of have to train people that the world is not as nice as your parents are. You know what I'm saying?
And then to me, you don't have to. I mean, just because you don't get a trophy doesn't mean you didn't do a good job. It just means that there's someone better than you. So you need to learn that there are people who are better than you. So if you want to be better than them, and if you want the trophy, you need to work for it, right? Yeah. So, but at the same time, you can still boost a kid and build a kid's confidence up and say, hey, you did a great job out there. You gave your best. Did you try hard? If they say yes, and you gave all your effort, then you're like, okay, then you did a great job. Just now you can know this is how people who are better than you and who win the trophy perform. Now you know what to strive for. That's how you build someone's confidence up, not just telling them, oh, here's the trophy. You get a trophy just because you participate. No, because then in that kid's mind, they're thinking, oh, all I have to do is just show up and then I get a trophy. And it's like, no. And then whenever they get to high school and then they get to college and they don't get a trophy, then they're like, well, what the hell? No, you just tell them, hey, you did your best, keep working hard, and then just work until you become the best. And then once you become the best, work hard to stay there. That's how that should work. It's really simple. But again, our society just believes in everyone's good as is, and we just accept everyone the way. No, I'm not with that. I'm not for that. That's not how I grew up. That's not how I see the world. And, for me, the way I see the world is how the world was built, which was there's winners and losers. The winners are there because they were better and they worked to get there. And some of them got there because of pure luck, right? And the losers can become the winners if they work hard at it and they work hard to chase the winners and to beat the winners. That's how life works. So
Absolutely, and not everybody starts at the same position. You know, everybody starts at different levels. That doesn't, but still, there's no excuse. If you start at a disadvantage, you work to make that your advantage, or you work with what you have, or you get better. Like you said, like, you know, some people are like, well, that person had this advantage. True, so be it. Like, you work. The people who are resilient and people who don't let themselves have any excuse, they don't say, oh, well, Bernard was 6'3" and I was 6 foot. No, it's like, okay, I'm 6 foot, I'm a little shorter. I have to use leverage. I have to use what I have. That's how people should think. It's like, if I don't have this, I can do this. You know, but if you just enable people to believe, oh, it's okay just to be who you are, just to try. First off, like you said, that's not how the real world works. And that's not how, like, even if, let's say, you know, a kid, because I see this a lot in basketball and with AAU, and even in football. First off, I see parents hold their kids back and make them older. And so what happens is a child who is 13 plays against 12-year-olds, right? And they excel, so they're the best, right? But they're the best against lesser competition. And so then what happens is whenever they play against guys their age, or they get to high school, if they play in college, they start realizing, oh wait, I'm actually way behind, and then they don't understand. Also, I can't keep up with these guys because I didn't train against them. Right? It's much better to play against tougher competition and train your mind to think that way, and to train to get better and to train to be a competitor rather than saying, no, it's better for me to just excel against lesser competition, and then it looks like I'm doing great, or I'm excelling, or I'm the best, but then there are people who are way more advanced than I am. Right? In basketball, you see this with AAU culture as well. And then what happens is, like, there's a lot of with young players now, it's like they don't understand, like, because they've been told they were 8. Oh, you're the best. Oh, you've always scored 40 a game. Oh, you've always been the star of your AAU team. And then you get to the NBA and they don't have that same sympathy for you. Then it's like, oh, wait, I thought everybody liked me. No, that's not the way, like this. That's not the way the real world is. And so that's why it's like when I see young players like, oh, I went and got my mom to get me more playing time from the coach. Like, okay, do that if you will, but when you get to the next level, first off, that's not gonna. That's like, the coaches don't pay anything to come on. Like, just be good. You're just an actor, mostly. You know, so if you don't work, if you don't do what you got to do, you know, then you get left behind. And so that's just, you know.
and the best way I can put it is this, right? So you have in basketball, we've seen the two best players ever in history, LeBron James and Michael Jordan, right? LeBron James is arguably the most talented player to ever play in the NBA, right? And he's been able to maintain his level of excellence because he's put in the work, right? And then and he's been beat and he's suffered his losses, but instead of saying, well, hell with it, I'm just gonna, just chill on my talent and just let it take me where it takes me. No, he's like, no, I want to be the best, and I'm going to be the greatest to ever do it. So I'm going to put in the work to make sure I'm the greatest to ever do it until I'm there, and I think he's there. Then you look at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was never the most talented player whenever he was in the NBA in terms of physical talent. There was guys like Karl Malone. You could argue Scottie Pippen probably have more physical talent than him. I mean, so there's a lot of guys, that were physically more gifted than Michael Jordan was, but Michael Jordan put in the hard work, and his mindset was just that I can't accept being second or inferior to anybody. Like, I'm the best, and I'm going to show everyone the best. So he put in the work till he became the best at what he did at the time. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it works. It's not about even Tom Brady, right? We'll switch to football now. Tom Brady and Cam Newton. Cam Newton, to me, is the most talented quarterback to ever play the NFL ever. There's no one who's more talented than Cam Newton. Cam Newton is 100% the most talented quarterback to ever play the game of football, right? Then you have Tom Brady, who's not very talented physically, right? But again, Tom Brady's mindset was, I'm going to work hard. Like, okay, I know I'm not the best. I know I'm not the best athlete, so I have to make sure I put in the work and film and on the field to make sure that when I get into the game, I'm the best at what I do. And then when he reached the pinnacle of like being top of the NFL, he continued to put in the work to where he can still be the best year in, year out. That's how it works. So so whenever in youth sports, way it is now, that's not fair. What's fair is, okay, as long as you try your best and you just go out there and give it your all, you're a winner. No, you're not a winner. The person who wins is the person who wins, who's first. You know what I'm saying? So so again, like that's why, like, again, with youth sports, like if you want to call it like something, for me, this is how I think youth sports should go. If you don't want to name any winners, you just want kids go out there and play around for 40 minutes a game and just do that, I'm cool. I'm good with that. But don't sit there and have a winner, but then give out trophies and say, oh, everyone's a winner. Everyone did their best. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, like that's not real. That's not how it really works, And I think that these generations that are coming up who've grown up in that culture, they get to junior high and then high school where it's actually competitive, and there's actually there's a varsity and a junior varsity and there's a B team, and they get the little hopes and dreams broken because their parents believe that they can go to the NFL, and it's just it's all weird, So for me, again, in the end, I think that when you look at and you talk about youth sports should be to keep kids active, get kids to be active, keep them active, and then also to teach them like valuable life lessons about teamwork, hard work, consistency, determination, all that type of good stuff, all that cliche stuff. And then obviously about wins and losses and why certain people win, why certain people lose, how to become a winner, and how to avoid losing. That's what I think youth sports should be. And then once they get to like junior high and high school, then that's when you can really turn on competitively.
Yeah, well said. Couldn't have said it better. Well, final thing. What is your final piece of advice to young competitors out there?
I think I just, basically everything I just said, just understand why people are better than you. If you're the best, work to stay the best and don't let anybody catch you, and work to distance yourself from the rest of the people, right? So if you're a sprinter, right, in track, and you're already the fastest, well, now instead of just finishing where you have two people right beside you, now you want to finish. You should want to finish, 5 or 10 meters ahead, or what have you. You're a basketball player. You want to. And everyone, and you're averaging the most in the league right now. Instead of leading the league by 2 or 3 points per game, now you want to lead the league by 10 points a game, whatever. So always strive to be the best. If you are the best, strive to become so far out of reach where people are like really strained to catch up to you. And then also enjoy the game, because at the end of the day, it's sports. It's a game. It's not meant to be all heavy and super serious. It's meant for you to have fun and enjoy time with your teammates and things like that. And then also, I would say seek mentors. That's a big thing too. Yeah. And then for the guys who are like at the high school level and then college level, really make sure you put the right things in your body. Make sure you're eating the right things. Hydrating properly, training and taking training seriously. And yeah, that's it. Just those things. I think if you do those things, you'll put yourself in the best position possible to succeed.
Yep. That's the same thing. And control what you can control, never be satisfied, and just have fun and love what you do. That's all I got to say. That's a wrap. Episode 11, Core Inside Podcast. I want to thank my big bro for hopping on with me again. Appreciate you, Bernard. Great episode. It's on YouTube, Spotify, all platforms, streaming podcasts. Thank you.